Have you ever sat in an empty car of the subway, the underground, or the U-Bahn and thought, it sure would be awful if all the lights shut off right now? My name is Heather Byrom, and End of the Line was born from this exact creepy thought. Taking inspiration from stories like Stephen King's Langoliers or Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere, players will be transported to an alternate world, or as I like to call it, the underground of the underground, where ghosts wait for them in the darkness. End of the Line is a 3D first-person, non-combat terror adventure game for those horror lovers that are tired of jump scares. Has an ESRB rating of teen, and the demographic is between 13 and 45, though horror is for everybody over the age of 13. Initially, the player will avoid being caught in the dark as much as possible to save themselves from succumbing to the dark souls trapped within, though in time, the players will learn to embrace death as an old friend. While navigating the dark trains and tunnels, the player will spend their time looking for items that will help keep them out of the dark, like batteries and matches. Most importantly, they will turn on train lines that will allow them to activate the emergency beacons. These beacons will act as respawn points when the player is inevitably consumed by the darkness. Beacons allow the player to use death as a type of fast travel within the underground subway via succumbing to the darkness. If the player's beacon is destroyed, or they neglected to place one, they will respawn back at the geometry train at the start of the map. Beacons can only be activated on stops where the player has turned on the power to the train line. Turning on the power does not mean the lights are on, but that the train is available to use to get from stop to stop. But be wary, as certain types of ghosts reside in all the different areas of the subway, and the player is only safe in the geometry train. Turning on all of the train line's power allows the player to turn on the longest line, the Mobius line. Once this line is finally activated, the player can ride the train at full speed to the end of the line and make it out of the darkness or the other side of the Mobius line. While the game is non-combat, the player will use light as a defense. Of the three types of ghosts, shadows and creepers, will stay away from your cone of light. So it's best to keep stocked up on loose phones, lighters, and matches you find in the train cars and control rooms. In most horror games, over time the player becomes desensitized to the monsters that constantly assail them. Keeping the scares fresh is something difficult to do correctly without cutting the game short or introducing new scares. End of the Line has the players intentionally running into the darkness if it means they can skip stretches of subway they've been to already, if they've activated the beacons. In turn, they will naturally lose their fear of the ghosts within the darkness and begin to notice the storyline. As soon as the player enters the darkness, there will be markings and notations on the walls. Within the geometry train, there are notes and sketches lining the surfaces. These are from the three ghosts that have found themselves stuck here before you. They left you clues if you choose to follow them, but as you will work out, none of them made it out safely and have ultimately given in to the infinite dark. While the theme is monsters and ghosts, the mood will shift from terror to sadness. The player will grow a connection to the people leaving notes behind only to discover their fate was to lurk in these underground passages forever. For the main menu and initial tutorial, I want it to resemble any common realistic modern digital game one could find on Steam. From launch, the player is presented with gameplay. They are loaded in front of the turnstiles leading into the subway and can choose to insert a ticket or press the emergency button that will take them out of the game. If they insert their ticket, then they can walk past the turnstiles and into the station for the Mobius line. If they've never played before, there will be only one train the player can board, which prompts a new game. If they have played and have a saved game, they can go to the geometry train and continue with their progress. Before boarding the train, the player will have all actions available to them to practice as a tutorial. The pause menu is located within the player's phone, but does not act as a genuine pause. While navigating the settings, the player can turn the phone light on and stay within the light. Again, the player is only safe from the darkness while in the geometry train. Within the pause menu, the player can fine-tune the audio, adjust the overall difficulty, aka the brightness given out by all the light items, view the controls, and possibly load any saved data. While in the darkness, the heads-up display will show any items the player has in reserve on the top left. When lines are activated, the player will see the line in the top right. eventually, and hopefully, illuminating all 10 lines. The player will be able to walk, run, activate beacons and line power, search, use light, put away light, open doors, pick up items, bring out phone, put away phone, and jump. Objects include phones, matches, lighters, emergency beacons, line power switches, trains, the geometry train, the shadow ghost, the creeper ghost, and the large and imposing guardian ghost. The design of the level and game as a whole will closely resemble any modern subway you could take today. I want the player to think of the shadow on their next commute because their scariest moment was encountering one alone in a train car. The current government signs within the London Underground were created by artist Ali Auger and La Boca Limited. Seeing these on my most recent trip to London in February re-sparked my interest in this game idea, originally crafted in 2017 while riding trains on the U-Bahn. The block and gradient style of these posters made me feel uneasy despite their guidance. Ideally, I want the art style of the tutorial to be a juxtaposition to the darkness, which will look more like Superhot in blocks of color and gradients like these signs. The overall game's colors will be red, black, and white, but there will also be varying shades of blue to give the player some light and hope. The game will be made using Unity 3D. Sounds will include train noises recorded from the source, the London Underground. Background chatter will also come from publicly recording. There will be lonely white music that will play while the player is alone in the darkness. Each ghost will have its own synesthetically red music, and these will be provided by a video game musician named Adam at Absolute Unit Music. Thank you for your time, and I hope we can make it out of the darkness together.